so touched and impressed that to fly here, but I assure you that all the trouble that you went to gets counted and recorded. It's part of Yātrā, that whatever you do to get here, the expense, leaving behind, leaving a lot on the table back home. And what to speak of being mistreated by the transportation system. They have to look in every pocket, and they don't trust you, that you're not going to do something nefarious. So all that for the sake of coming here for the highest purpose of life, which is to mold the heart so that we're spiritually, emotionally stable. And the thrust of our heart is going towards the spiritual world. And if we don't touch the spiritual world and live in the spiritual world while we're in these bodies, then how will our hearts gravitate towards the spiritual world? So welcome to the spiritual world. Hare Krishna. I'm wondering about the seating. There seems like a large gap, unless you're trying to leave an infield open for me to lay down a bunt. But if you want to move up a little closer, as a social experiment, find that everything becomes better. And because we're just getting started here in the Yātrā, there may be a few adjustments to a few things. For instance, we had to find a mridanga somewhere in Puri, and we've got it. And we have a harmonium and a harmonist. And we have the devotees. So those are the main ingredients. Do we have a certified kartalist and kartals? No kartals? You brought kartals? Okay. It was the certified part that made you hesitate. Okay. I also have a few percussion instruments. If you have rhythm, there's Anukul Seva, you can play something. I hereby bequeath you the ceremonial cowbell. Anyway, look through. There's a drumstick and a really nice cowbell. Which adds a lot. And if somebody else comes from the 60s and you've ever played a tambourine, maybe in your last life, I don't know, from the 60s, then you can apply to play the tambourine, which is a really nice instrument, but it's a very dominant percussion instrument also, so the unacquainted need not apply. So we have some very beautiful songbooks. It's really a labor of love, this songbook. It's been through several iterations. And in it you'll find some descriptions of the holy places that we're going to go to. If you see some extra holy places, that's because this is a full service songbook. We use it when we also go to Mayapur. In this Yātrā, we're not going to Mayapur, we're just going, we are going here and then also to Vrindavan. You'll find all the places that we will be visiting plus more. Then you'll find a list of songs. We try to make the index helpful so it's not hard to find the songs we're going to sing. And we will sing a lot of songs because that's what we do in the spiritual world. And that's why Indians and Bollywood are it's so ingrained that at one point or another you're going to break out in song and start singing, because that's what the devotees do in the spiritual world. They break out in song. And there are quite a few verses. You'll find that the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is here in the songbook. We'll be chanting that every day together as part of our Chad, chapter a day. It's a very powerful chapter, and it goes along with one of the goals of the Yātrā, which is to mold the heart to the spiritual world. As in the 8th chapter, as you all know, Kṛṣṇa talks about how powerful our state of heart is. It's so powerful that it's creating our future for us. Material nature is accommodating us. Krishna is accommodating us according to the way we cultivate our hearts. And there's several Mangalacharnas during our sojourn here in this Dham and also in Vrindavan. We'll be chanting together some Mangalacharnas. Mangalacharnas are sets of prayers that are meant to invoke auspiciousness and to call for benedictions and to remove all obstacles. That's why before we chant Hare Krishna, we generally also chant prayers to our benefactors and to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then we chant Hare Krishna. Why don't you sit right there? That way we can make eye contact. How is everybody?
Great.
Happy to be here too. And of course, along with the spiritual aspect, troop movement is an onerous task, especially in India. Just remember, if you come from a state where drivers respect pedestrians, you're not there right now. They expect you to watch out for yourself. They don't slow down, generally. Also, the most dangerous entity on the planet lives in tropical areas like this. It's the mosquito. So make sure to watch out for mosquitoes. There's 3 entities or circumstances that come unannounced. One is mosquitoes, the other is monkeys, and the third is death. Those 3. They come without any warning, or not much. And we can be forewarned, however, about mosquitoes and monkeys. Be really careful, because if you have $500 glasses, they can be gone. There's no write-off for it. Monkeys nowadays don't give them back in Vrindavan. Here, there's no stealing of glasses, but if you're walking in areas where there are lots and lots of people, somebody's hand might find their way into your bag and borrow your cell phone for a while. So be careful of that. And please take care. Get enough rest. You can be on a time lag and feel that you're euphoric or something like that, but it's important to bring your body back into their circadian rhythms so you stay healthy, and then drink lots of water and electrolytes. It's one of the great secrets of being in India. I discovered after many trips to India in my younger years and always wondering why I was so tired here, someone finally nudged me and said, "Hey, did you try electrolytes?" And then I realized that's what I was missing. So it's a lot hotter and more humid than you may think, especially if you just came from a cold environment. So you have to take care and drink water. Which reminds me. Am I going to get a table up here? Okay. So while we're waiting for a table, so I can put my songbook on it and we can sing together. We'll start with a little kirtan because if all else fails, then it will. Chant Hare Krishna. I welcome my dear God brother from another mother, Vaiśeṣika Prabhu, with whom I had the pleasure of serving for several years in New York City. He's a stalwart in the Krishna consciousness movement and one of the famous disciples of Śrīla Prabhupada for his kirtan, cooking, and classes, and much, much more, which you'll have to find out for yourself. Thank you very much for making the trip. Been looking forward to seeing you. We are just starting our Yātrā. Entering into the Dhāma is not something we can take for granted. As we know from the story of Mayavati and Usha from the Śrīmad Bhagavatam and Aniruddha, when Mayavati went to Dwarka Dham to find Aniruddha, she had seen him in her dreams, seen him in her dreams. When she got there, she had to learn from Narada Muni the art of entering. And there's a great art to entering, and it's important. When we come into a temple room, we ring the bell, we offer obeisances, we don't walk in with shoes and so forth. And we do that because we're presenting ourselves. Darśan, as Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura emphasized, is not us going to see the Lord. In fact, oftentimes he would stand near the back of the temple at the Garuḍa Stambha, saying that Krishna will look out and recognize his devotee Garuḍa, and if he's standing underneath him, then he may also see him. He also oftentimes didn't wear his glasses when he would come to see the deities, because he would say, I'm not coming to use these eyes to enjoy looking at the Lord, but I'm here so the Lord can see me. And coming into the Dhāma in a similar mood, they were here for service. It's not for room service, receiving room service, but it's for being in the mood of how I can increase my affinity for devotional service. That is a kind of service. That I can purify my heart of any extra things that have come along for the ride somehow or other. Things just tend to jump on and go for a free ride until we come to the Dhāma and realize, hey, get off of me. I didn't ask you to come along. And Krishna recognizes these attempts that we make to purify ourselves so that we can offer our heart to him. In the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Śrīla Prabhupada, quoting his spiritual master, Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura, gives a commentary on the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, which we're near to now. That is the Gundicha Mandir, not near Puri-wise, but planet-wise. And there's a catalog, a long list of possible anarthas that one can adopt, or which may adopt us. And by the process of devotional service, especially hearing and chanting in the association of devotees, as we know from the Bhagavatam, Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna, Hridyantaksto Hibadrani. Krishna helps from within the heart. He's there as the well-wisher. And when we seriously make ourselves available to hear and to be in the Dhāma, and Krishna helps us to remove the anarthas. I find especially when we come to the Dhāma, there's a difference in atmosphere which then reveals what I've been carrying in my heart. I may not know it in a different environment. That's like at the dentist sometimes they put something on your teeth and they say, I'm going to reveal what's actually there. And then once they put it there, you can see what you missed. And coming to the Dhāma is a revelation also, oftentimes. So entering the Dhāma means entering in the right attitude. We know from Akrura, who's famous for entering Vrindavan with the mood of anticipation of seeing Krishna and receiving his lotus hand on his shoulder or head in benediction, that there's a prayerful way to enter. And I'd like to therefore offer my obeisances to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, whose portrait is here and here, as the overseer of everything that goes on in our International Society for Krishna Consciousness and during this Yātrā. Dear Śrīla Prabhupada, if you so desire, please let us follow in your footsteps and worship the Dhāma in a way that will be inspired to go back out into the rest of the world wherever we've been assigned to help bring other people back to the Dhāma. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. And since we don't have unlimited time tonight, or any night for that matter, but less tonight, because everyone just got in, and we don't want to push too hard first night. Good to get some rest. Tomorrow we're going to be going to Tota Gopinath. Hare Krishna. And right next door to Tota Gopinath, or catty corner across the street, is a Gaudiya Math, but it's not just any Gaudiya Math. Atop the hill above the temple is the Bhajan Kutir of Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura. It's on a sand dune, which is a very famous sand dune. Of course, there may be many sand dunes on the beaches of Puri, but particularly this sand dune was one like it, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw as Govardhan Hill and ran as swiftly as the wind to it, thinking of Krishna and calling out a verse from the Bhagavatam, which we'll all recite when we go there. So we'll be going there tomorrow. And then there are various other places that we frequent here in Jagannath Puri because of their spiritual and philosophical importance. Of course, every place has a feeling to it. There's the bhava, or the feeling, and as I mentioned, one of the goals of coming to the Dhāma is to shape the heart. And I also mentioned the Bhagavad Gita, as we'll be studying together chapter 8. At least we'll be chanting it every day and memorizing the Bhagavad Gita chapter 8 if you haven't yet. You could just do it every day, and then pretty soon it'll come to you. But in that chapter, Krishna says, in response to Arjuna's questions at the very beginning of the chapter, what is it that forces us to move in this material world? And Krishna answers that it's the shape of our heart, the quality of our heart. One may say, well, I'll just get ready at the last minute. But anybody who's tried that in school or in other endeavors may know that it's not always the best policy. And so Krishna says, develop your heart. So when we go to these places, there we'll be talking about them, and also we'll be talking about the lessons that various acharyas or that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought to light in those places. Everywhere Lord Chaitanya went, there were those aspects. There was the aspect of the feeling of the place, but there was also a lesson from the teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita that we can practically take away and practically apply. And therefore, after offering obeisances to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who led us in here, And I say that because once when I was traveling with one of my dear godbrothers, with whom I used to visit many holy places, and he was a senior godbrother to me. Each temple we'd enter, we'd offer our pranams to Prabhupada, being both disciples of Prabhupada. And one time while we had entered a temple, about the fifth for the day, he looked over at me as we still had our heads on the ground, and he said, "So why is it that we come before all these different deities and say Prabhupada's pranam mantras?" And I said, "I don't know. You're my senior godbrother. You please tell me." And he said, "We're letting Krishna know who let us in here." And this is the way of moving anywhere, is to remember that we're being given an opportunity. So Srila Prabhupada's given us this opportunity. And then, of course, we have the Panchatattva. And to remember the Panchatattva and the devotees, Vande Gurun Isha Bhaktan, Ishan Isha Avatarakan, as we'll repeat in just a minute. We remember Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan, Bhakti Vignashana. There's a way in which we can remove all our obstacles on the path to devotional service by saying the Mangalacharna. It removes obstacles. It also, as Kaviraj Goswami writes in the last verses that we'll recite, it also fulfills all our desires. Would you like to have all your desires fulfilled?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, well. Let's turn in the songbook for our Mangalacharna. So, entering the Dham. Why enter the Dham? We find in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 83rd chapter, section of the Bhagavatam, because it's the meeting of everybody. Everyone came to Kurukshetra in chapter 82. Krishna came from Dwarka. It was announced all over the world. Bards went out playing drums and announcing town to town. Used to be the internet system. And people came to take advantage of the eclipse, impending eclipse. The place where Parashuram had performed sacrifices, and famous for a place for purification. And Krishna had come, residents of Vrindavan had come, and of course this is one of the greatest events in the life of a Gaudiya Vaishnava, or the greatest leelas to consider, because as Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, it was the zenith of the separation the devotees felt, and even when they saw Krishna, they still felt separation from him. That is, the devotees from Vrindavan, seeing him in royal dress there in that place. And then the sages came to see Krishna there. All the biggest names in the universe. And Krishna, along with the other Kshatriyas there, all stood up to greet them. They worshipped those great sages, did Krishna and many other kings. Krishna, of course, Vidambayan means, in a bewildering way, he acts just like a human being, even though he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Jananivasa means he walks among the rest of us as a human. And as Bhagavatam says, Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Manusham Dehamastita Vachate Tadrishi Kridha Yashutva Tat Paro Bhavet. There's a way in which Krishna does this specifically, says the Bhagavatam, so we'll have something to remember him by. How did he walk in the world? He came just like a human being. And Yashutva Tat Paro Bhavet, when we remember him later, it melts the heart to remember how he bowed down to Yudhishthira, he embraced Arjuna, he allowed Nakula and Sahadev to offer their obeisances to him, and he would give them benediction according to his relationship in the world with each type of person. He would act appropriately. And here at Kṛṣṇa, and I say here at Kṛṣṇa as a slip of the tongue, but really is, because this is where the pastime is enacted over and over again. And I dare say it was the most important pastime in the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He and his associates from Navadvip, who dearly missed him and would just wait for the time when they could spend 3 months here in Puri, coming from Navadvip walking. And they would then all be in the Ratha Yātrā together and remember taking Krishna back to Vrindavan, which is a mirror of the pastime at Kurukshetra. And during that time at Kurukshetra, the great sages who saw Krishna then sat expectantly to hear him speak. And Krishna said, what is the use of coming to a holy place unless one meets the great souls? And as our acharyas comment on that section, they give Bhavad Vida Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhutam Bhavad Vida Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhuta Swayam Vibho Tirtha Gurvanti Tirtani Swantakstena Gadabrita. A verse that was spoken by Yudhishthira to Vidura. And he said, although you go to all these holy places, you're a holy place personified because you carry the Supreme Personality of Godhead within your heart. The Vaishnavas, even more important than carrying Krishna within their heart, they carry love for Krishna within their heart. And so then Krishna began to speak, continued speaking to the sages. And he said that without the association of great souls, then one may see a holy place as just a body of water or some land. And in fact, he then spoke that very famous verse, which Prabhupada quotes many times, Yasyas buddhi kunapetru dhatuke swati kavatradishu bhauma ijati yatirtha buddhi salilena karichit janishu abhigeshus eva gokara. That some people come to a holy place and they just think, I did my obligatory bath, probably dropped off a few sins here, and I'll go back to what I was doing before. Other people in the same mentality think my family members are all my kith and kin, that's who I am, I'm part of this family forever. Other people worship their homeland. They think that's saluting the flag and feeling emotional when they hear the national anthem. And they go high in the air sometime, and the Prabhupada said the Russians would look down from their Sputnik and say, there's my Moscow. Although we have nothing to do with this material world. Asango hyayam purushaha, the Vedas say. Little Jiva, it's not your place. You got no connection here, nothing to see, move on. So there in Kurukshetra, after speaking those words, the sages were amazed to hear Krishna's speech, and they took in every word into their heart to hear the Supreme Personality of Godhead in person speaking this. So our first song for the night will be to remember that the way to perfection in spiritual life is by getting the dust of the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. And we'll sing O Hey Vaishnava Ṭhākura. So if you ever have any problems in life, do you ever? Or is it just me? Pretty much constantly. Then you just remember Lord Chaitanya. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami says, easy things become hard if you forget Lord Chaitanya, and hard things become easy. I was with Kaustubha Prabhu in in London, a little while ago at Studio 108, and we were talking to some of the people from Wisdom and the Sages. And some of the people there are very new to Krishna consciousness, and somebody was asking a psychological question, how to overcome some of the ways in which the mind... I better be careful because Vishnu Prabhu was a psychologist. I better say the right thing here. But I can't go wrong, actually, because what I'm about to say is what pleasantly startled me about what Kaustubha Prabhu said to the person who was struggling and having some difficulty with the mind, how to overcome. And the first thing he said was, you have to remember Krishna. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that if you remember me, then you can cross over all the obstacles of material life by my grace. And I think of that often, that so many ways in which I make stopgap measures to fix the problems of life. But there is only one solution, and that is Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto. Krishna says, become absorbed in thoughts of me. And we can do that by chanting Hare Krishna. That's the direct method. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmarayudyacha mayarpita mano buddhir mami vaishasya samshaya. Krishna, without a doubt, this will work. He tells Arjuna, you fight and you remember me. And by this, you will attain perfection in life. So this is a delightful song. You're going to love who wrote this. It's Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, as we'll find out, and because we're going to go to his house, he was the greatest scholar in the world. That's not hyperbole. He actually was the greatest scholar in the world. He was part of a school of Nyaya that was so intense that the teacher wouldn't let any of the literatures go out because they were so advanced in the science of Nyaya, logic and argument. They didn't want anybody to know their secrets. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya just sat down and memorized the whole book. Fixed that problem. He had been in Navadvip early part of his life. He'd come to Puri. He was the guru of thousands and thousands of disciples. And of course, when the young sannyasi came to town here in Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who, unbeknownst to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was an academic and a great scholar, had met, of course, the greatest Kavi and scholar of all time. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, Kavim Puranam Manushashitaram. One of the first things he says, you can remember me as a Kavi. I'm the smartest one. If you want your head to spin, if you hear someone speaking philosophy, Krishna's the one to listen to. So we can remember Krishna and remember Lord Chaitanya. And here's a poem that is sung everywhere in all the dhams. I've heard people singing it in Vrindavan, remembering Lord Chaitanya's beautiful form, pastimes, his dancing. And this was written by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya after he was converted from being a dry logician into a soft-hearted, joyful devotee of the Lord. Who here wants to be a soft-hearted, joyful devotee of the Lord? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and if anybody didn't raise their hand, go wait in the hallway, because this song will melt your heart. When we remember Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan, Vignam Vinashana, then anayase, very easily, hoy, vanchita puran, we can fulfill all our desires, our real desires, which is what Karabhajana Muni says in Srimad Bhagavatam in relationship to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Abhishtadoham. He is the one, Deyam Sada Paribhava Yam Abhishtadoham. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is fit to be meditated upon. That's why we're here, to meditate on Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Feel free to let yourselves go. We're guarded in our lives because we feel we have three general psychological blockages. Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. Raga means that I just can't give up the idea that there must be something for me here in the material world. There must be one more try I can do. And that goes on for unlimited lifetimes. Bhaya means I'm fearful of having a personal existence, of personhood. I'm afraid of personhood. And I'm also ultimately, because the samskar of losing my sense of personhood at every death, Patanjali Muni said this is the strongest of all the impressions we have in our mind. Even the little birds have it. They're trying to avoid getting killed. We don't like that very much, right? Say yes. And finally, Krodha. There's a sense of indignation. That why me? Why am I being subjected to this? And why is everybody talking at me and telling me all these different ideas of how to get out of it? Everyone's got free advice in this world. Just stop it. I don't believe in anything. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can help us overcome all that and open our hearts. Deyam sada paribhavagnam abhishtadoham. He takes away all these psychological blockades. And abhishtadoham, it doesn't just leave us there, but he fulfills our desire for real happiness in life, which is to engage in unmitigated service without any stoppage to the Supreme Personality of God. He shows us how to do that. And we'll learn that here in the Jagannath Puri Dham. It's the place where we see the devotees engaging in the 6 loving exchanges together. And we see how the devotees are constantly hearing and chanting about Krishna. Machita makata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantaschamam nityam tushanti charamanti cha. This is their real happiness. So our goals for the Yātrā are to mold the heart. To go to these places, you don't have to try so hard. I mean, you already did the hard work of getting here. And it was hard, right? Admit it was hard. It's hard leaving the house, isn't it? It's like, what am I going to take? Is it way too much? And I miss it when I get there. You can't buy those in India. And it's a little mini death. It's a mini death, leaving house, getting on a plane. But now we're here, we're safe, we're in the Dham. So once we come here, we feel free to go to these places and sing the songs and be with the devotees. Now, another aspect of the Dham is service. This is service Yātrā. And as I said earlier, it's not about getting room service. Because one might think, like, what's wrong with my room and this and that. It's like a little prison cell, just to take it like that wherever you go. And then be happy. Garuḍa Stambha, when he went to prison, he was thrown in jail for being a devotee, which happens a lot. Then everyone came to him for advice, and he said, stay the way you are. So just remember, wherever you are, just stay that way in Krishna consciousness. Doesn't matter what room you get. Well, it could. I mean, if something's broken, let Shraddha know. But my point is, what was my point? I was amusing myself. Service. And that is that many years ago we decided to make this a Sankirtan Yatra. So I'm going to take 1 minute to tell you an infallible method of distributing books. Infallible. In fact, I guarantee it. You'll sell a book to every person you meet, and if you don't, mark it down, make a little chit, and I'll pay you for every book you don't distribute to somebody in this method. It doesn't require any talking. No talking. It just requires a few moves. The first move is, and I recommend you wear shoes you can kick off when you go on the yatras, because it's one of the big things here in Puri, and I found it out by mistake because we were having a Harinam one day in Alalanath, and somebody on a motorcycle, we were having Harinam, and this person stopped his motorcycle and screamed at us, and I didn't know what he was screaming because it was in Oriyan, and then later on I found out it was because we were at Harinam wearing shoes. So then I started, well, anyway, Krishna revealed it. I found out, I'll save the details, we're out of time. So when you approach somebody here and you kick off your shoes, they'll kick their shoes off too. And that's a common etiquette here that means we're about to do something spiritual. So what you do is you go like this, then you walk up to them, you kick off your shoes, then they'll kick off their shoes, and then you hand them a Jagannath sticker. And we have custom-made Jagannath stickers, don't we? Okay? And then after that we have a lollipop. It's all offered to the Lord, authorized by Prabhupada in 1972 to Bhakta Gopal. It's in the law books. And there's nobody on earth that doesn't like candy on a stick. Once you see it, then people will grab for it. So you hand them the sticker, no conversation. You hand them the lollipop, then you'll hand them a book. We have books in Hindi, in Bangla, and English, and Oriyan, Hindi, and we have a few English books too. And then you show them, and you'll each have these. We have bags. I just happen to have mine in here, my language cards. And on the cards, which you can connect to a little cord, so everyone gets the idea that it's retractable. Mine's built into my bag, by the way. It's right here. Goes on this. So, what language does the person speak that I just met? Oriyan? So then you look up Oriyan, it's got here on this side, and you show them that side, and you hand them this card with it on the string, and then if you know Iyengar yoga, you stand back in mountain pose. And you just stand there. You don't say anything. They know that you know that they know what it means. And that's the beauty of it. Don't say anything and ruin the whole thing. So 1, sticker. 2, lollipop. 3, book in the appropriate language. 4, card. 5, mountain pose. Don't say a thing. Stand there. There's another secret. Everybody in India has money. You may look at him and go like, where would he have money? He just got a gumshot. It's rolled up in the thing. It's one of the richest countries in the world, even though people act like it's not sometimes. So they have rupees. They're happy to give. They know what it means, and they appreciate having the opportunity to give something in return. So they get a lollipop, sticker, a book. They get to give a donation. And then, if you want to, you can learn in their language. We have a few cards that say it was an honor to meet you. Thank you very much. So then everyone can have a book bag. Everyone has all the what you need. So when we're walking around, we'll have certain times when we're going to cover sections of the street or where there's crowds, and we'll just turn everybody loose. And you can go out and enjoy. I just recommend that you make sure you keep track of the Harinam, because it's so absorbing to distribute books here in the Dham, because everyone would be happy to receive one, unlike maybe, downtown Des Moines, Iowa or something, that you may get absorbed and lose the track of the Harinam. Also, we're going to have Harinam wherever we go. Our motto is KTTVG, keep the... Yeah, we don't stop the vibration. And we'll go to various places. We may have to be a little bit flexible in some of the places, because when Artik starts in India, it means gongs. And it means so loud you can't hear anything. So when it starts, we may have to move here or there. We'll just be flexible. We're just nomads. We're going around to roll in the dust, see Lord Chaitanya, look in. You may feel something in your heart. That's real. When you look in and you see the Lord looked at you, that's real. When you felt something, when you walked in or you walked out, you saw something, that's real. You get to keep that. That's what you get to take home. That's the heart, the molding of the heart. Just being here in the Dham, you get to see see that. There are several warnings I gave. I'll reiterate. Be careful of mosquitoes. Don't go out. I haven't seen many, but that doesn't mean they're not lurking. They could come at the most unexpected time, but wear mosquito repellent. And then also, when we get to Vrindavan especially, watch out for monkeys. They'll take your glasses. They're trained to do that. They've got generations of it in their mind and DNA, and they're really good at it, and they're relentless, and it's not a good feeling when they jump on you and take your glasses. Okay, I would like to thank Shraddha Devi Dasi and her team for the outstanding organization. There's a prayer in your book, along with the Prasadam prayers, that is specifically for honoring Jagannath Prasadam. Each Dham has its own specialty. In Mayapur Dham, it's Harinam Sankirtan. In Vrindavan, it's the dust. And in Puri, it's Jagannath Prasadam. It's taken very seriously here when residents of Puri take Jagannath Prasadam. They sit on the floor out of humility, and they honor it very consciously, Prasadam. In fact, they have a rule of not even washing their mouth afterwards, and they don't want to lose even a morsel of the Prasadam. If it's considered that Jagannath Prasadam is always pure, it says in the Shastra that even if a dog touches it, then you can still honor it, because Jagannath Prasadam, although sometimes distributed, it's thrown out off the cart or something, it touches the ground, you can still take Jagannath Prasadam. Point is, it's one of the ways of very deep spiritual communion with Lord Jagannath, who takes the bhoga and gives back the prasadam 54 times a day. The big kitchens, it's the main thing you'll see coming and going, huge baskets of prasadam. So we're very fortunate that we have an arrangement that we get Jagannath Mahaprasadam every night. Om Tat Sat.